Looks like 8 o'clock is here. Welcome to all of the early risers. I'm Brian Hales. I'll be the chair for this session. Just a few reminders. We would ask you to to silence all of the cell phones so we won't have interruption that way. The sessions are going to be recorded, and I know MHA is going to try and make them available without charge at some future date to be downloaded from the web. So hopefully that'll happen. May not be in the next few months, but hopefully within the year. Today we're going to hear from three speakers who are very much very knowledgeable about Mormon polygamy, Mormon fundamentalist polygamy. Our first speaker will be Eric Rogers. He's married to Kelly Ensign. They have 5 children, 1 grandchild, and they live in the beautiful Bitterroot Valley of southwestern Montana. Eric is an independent researcher with a special interest in Mormon schismatic groups. He has published articles in the Religious Educator, the Journal of John Whitmer Historical Association, and the Journal of Mormon History. And he will be followed by Joseph Jessup, and Joseph is one of 27 polygamous children of one of the Allred group's leading council members. He grew up in the fundamentalist community in Pinesdale, Montana, until he was 20 years old when he joined the mainstream LDS Church. Despite leaving the Allred group and joining the church, he still maintains very close relationships with his family and friends in the Allred group. He graduated from Utah State University in 1998 with a degree in history and political science. Joe lives in Hamilton, Montana, only 10 short minutes from where he grew up in Pinesdale. He teaches U.S. history and government in high school and also conducts corporate leadership courses around the country for the Leaders Institute out of Dallas, Texas. He has presented twice before at John Whitmer Association, and this will be his first presentation at the Mormon History Association meeting. Also, we will have as our third presenter Marianne Watson, and she has published several articles in the Journal of Mormon History on Mormon fundamentalist topics. She works as a family historian. She's a grandmother of 12 and the mother of 9. Due to some health concerns, she will have her paper read by Rose Bonnell. And then we will have some comments from Martha Bradley, who really doesn't need much of an introduction. She was the MHA president in 2003-2004. She's published numerous articles, usually on polygamy-related topics, and is the author or co-author of 2 books. One is For Zinas, a story of a mother and daughters on the Mormon frontier, which was published in 2000 by Signature Books, and also Kidnapped from the Land, the government raids on the Short Creek polygamists, and that was published by the University of Utah in '93. I'll be holding up my little signs because we'll try to keep it to 20 minutes for the presentations and 10 for the comments, so we'll have a few minutes for questions.
I want to thank you all for coming and being here. I appreciate so much the assistance of so many. It would take my full 20 minutes to thank everybody that's helped with the research. Many of you are here in this room, and so I hope you know that my gratitude goes out to you. Rulon Clark Allred played a major pivotal role in the development of Mormon fundamentalism during the middle half of the 20th century. Particularly significant was his role in the split within fundamentalism in the early 1950s, resulting in the 2 largest fundamentalist organizations of our day, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Allred or Jensen group, also known as the Apostolic United Brethren. While some have examined Allred's impact on this schism, few have written about his earlier life. This presentation shines a light on a variety of factors that influenced his tumultuous ride from mainstream Mormonism to the pinnacle of polygamous fundamentalism. While attention will be given primarily to the influence of family members, particularly to Rulon's father, Byron Harvey Allred, and to his first wife, Catherine Handy, I will also examine the impact of leaders of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on him, including President Heber J. Grant and Apostle Anthony W. Ivins. I will also illustrate the influence of fundamentalist icon Joseph White Musser, whose decision to elevate Allred to the leadership of the fundamentalist community ignited the schismatic fuse. Relying upon both published and unpublished sources, I intend to paint a compelling picture of Allred's Prelude to Polygamy. Rulon Clark Allred was born March 29, 1906 in Colonia Dublin, Chihuahua, Mexico, to Mary Evelyn Clark, Evelyn, and Byron Harvey Allred Jr., known as Harvey. 3 years prior to Rulon's birth, Harvey departed Star Valley, Wyoming with his wife Charlotte and their 7 children to relocate to a polygamous refugee colony in Mexico. Harvey, Charlotte, and the children were joined by Mary Evelyn Clark in Logan, Utah. Evelyn would become Harvey's second wife and Rulon's mother after their arrival in Mexico. Conditions in Mexico left much to be desired. Disease, an oppressive climate, contention over land deals among the Mormon colonists, and the threat of Mexican revolutionaries led Harvey to take steps to return his family to the United States. Colony leaders in Mexico gave Harvey permission to leave in 1908. Soon after they relocated from Mexico to Idaho, Charlotte tragically died, giving birth to twins. Harvey's family arrangement now fit mainstream monogamous Mormonism, and he raised Rulon as a devout member of the church. 14 years later, however, Harvey was told by church leaders to withdraw his name as a candidate for the U.S. Senate because of his, quote, odious background, end quote, as a polygamist. After withdrawing to Canada for 3 years in hope of finding true saints, Harvey returned to Idaho. By the mid-1920s, as Rulon was coming into young adulthood, Harvey, his father, was aligning himself with polygamists in the Intermountain West in opposition to the mainstream church. Harvey held that the church was out of order by rejecting polygamy. The church's increasingly zealous stance against the practice was evidenced by its willingness to excommunicate those who taught and practiced the principle. By 1921, a critical mass of true saints, some of whom retained their membership in the church, began congregating at homes, offices, industrial buildings, and even in open-air settings. Brian Hales, our moderator today, writes that while no identifiable leaders would emerge until the 1930s, several individuals became prominent within informal gatherings, and these men included John T. Clark, Nathaniel Baldwin, Lawrence C. Woolley, and Joseph Musser. Harvey's convictions compelled him to advocate publicly for polygamy and to criticize the church openly for discontinuing the practice. By September of 1932, he was seeking a publisher for a book reflecting his beliefs. So while his father was becoming increasingly outspoken about the need to live the fullness of the gospel, meaning including plural marriage, Rulon was falling deeply in love with a beautiful young girl named Catherine Lucy Handy. In 1924, just after her 16th birthday, Catherine was attending Sunday school in the Jewish synagogue in Boise, where her LDS congregation met for worship services. During the meeting, Catherine met Rulon, whom she described, quote, as a wonderfully tall blonde boy who looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching him. It wasn't long before Rulon confessed that Kitty, as he called her, was the first girl, except relatives, he had ever kissed or held in his arms. After courting for 2 years, Rulon and Kitty were married in the Salt Lake Temple, June 9th, 1926, at which point they packed up their things, which wasn't much, and moved to Los Angeles, California to pursue professional training. They struggled to find work and to make ends meet in Los Angeles. During these trying times, Rulon and Kitty tragically lost their first child, Catherine Evelyn. Their daughter was born prematurely on June 3, 1927, and died just a day later. The premature labor appears to have been induced when Rulon demonstrated a chiropractic adjustment on Catherine. Catherine would give birth to 3 more children: Rulon Forrest, born July 6, 1928, Kathleen Adele, born March 18, 1932, and Judith Annette on November 8, 1933. In the midst of an illness that nearly robbed Rulon and Kitty of Forrest, Rulon graduated from chiropractic college. He and Kitty moved to Long Beach, where Catherine's parents lived, the Handys. They sought out an apartment that would serve adequately both as a personal residence and also as Rulon's professional office to provide chiropractic care. They were active in the church and developed close relationships with a number of church members in their ward. Rulon taught Sunday school. As a matter of fact, I was visiting with Susan Easton Black yesterday. She said her parents were in Rulon's Sunday school class in Long Beach. So he taught Sunday school and became deeply involved in genealogical and temple work. This is about the time that the Arizona temple was completed, and they began making trips, very difficult, long, arduous trips to Arizona to attend the temple. During this period of faithful church service, Rulon turned his attention to his father. In a February 7, 1933 letter, Rulon rebuked his father for fomenting apostasy and for urging Rulon's sisters, Ree and Olive, to enter polygamy by marrying Morris Kuntz. Rulon wrote this: "Do not write that book and publish it to the world. Your mission is in the kingdom of God, among the children of God, and not among apostates and unbelievers. Oh, that I should have to write you in this manner. I would that I could see you and persuade you to turn from your course of destruction. Lucifer has carefully led you. He has blinded your eyes, and you have not contemplated the misery that inevitably follows if you continue. Oh, I do love you so, and I shall pray God continually for his assistance that you may live to serve him." In a postscript to that letter, Rulon reminded his father of this: "Our family has always been numbered among the most stalwart of the Church of God. Never, to my knowledge, have we before been found in dissension and apostasy. Think of the good of your family and loved ones, if you no longer can regard yourself." During 1933, Rulon wrote to Apostle Anthony W. Ivins about the spiritually destructive effects of his father's teachings on members of the church. Ironically, it was Ivins who had solemnized the post-manifesto polygamous marriage of Rulon's parents in Mexico 30 years earlier. Harvey remained firm despite his son's protestations. Moved by a desire to refute his father's teachings, Rulon engaged in an intensive study of polygamy. Catherine explained, "Rulon is neglecting his practice terribly. He spends all available time in reading up on polygamy in order to dissuade his father. He won't stop reading up on polygamy regardless of my pleas and my tears. I am afraid." Catherine's fears would prove well-founded. As a result of his studies, Rulon became increasingly convinced of the principles espoused by his father. Catherine's desperation is palpable. Listen to her words. "Things are getting worse all the time. Rulon won't even listen to my pleading anymore. Everything he says is in favor of polygamy. He is like some demon possesses him. When I try to tell him what he's doing to me, he says I'm doing it to myself and not being willing to accept the word of the Lord. When I really get frantic, he leaves and says he's going out into the hills to pray. Several times he hasn't come back until morning. My heart is breaking." The wedge of polygamy was sinking deeper and deeper into their relationship. Catherine's protest drove Rulon into the hills, and Rulon's zeal pushed Catherine toward frantic desperation. Catherine was deeply concerned about her marriage, but also about her children. Referring to their daughters, Kathleen and Judy, Catherine wrote, "Rulon says his dearest dream will be realized when he sees Rulon says his dearest dream will be realized when he sees them both married to the same man." She then underlines the next statement, "I won't let it happen. Not if I have to leave him." In addition to his father's influence, some of Rulon's siblings exerted pressure upon him to enter into polygamy. From Catherine's point of view, they were out to get Rulon. When a call came from his sister Ree, inviting Rulon to meet with her and his older half-brother Harold in Los Angeles, Catherine insisted against Rulon's will on going. Ree expressed the happiness she experienced in her polygamous marriage. Rulon explained that if it were not for Catherine, he would be living it too. In desperation and at the prompting of her mother, Catherine reached out to Leo J. Muir, president of this church's Los Angeles stake. Muir arranged for Rulon to meet with the stake high council to receive correction. Instead of being counseled, however, Rulon defiantly advocated the doctrine of polygamy. According to one source, he may have had silent support from at least one other member of that high council. Let me quote that. Before Rulon entered the principal, it was revealed to him that one of the members of the Los Angeles High Council was living the law. This was Nephi Anderson. He took Rulon to South Pasadena to meet Maud Christensen, to whom he had been married for a number of years. They had a good-sized family, and all of their sons had performed missions for the church. In Muir's History of the Church in California, a biographical sketch of Nephi Anderson is included. The sketch reports Anderson's marriage to Dora Piper on October 9, 1907 in Salt Lake City. In 1922, his marriage in 1907, let me try that again. The sketch reports Anderson's marriage to Dora Piper on October 9, 1907 in Salt Lake Temple. According to Muir, the Andersons had moved to California from Salt Lake City in 1922 so that Nephi could represent the Nathaniel Baldwin radio interests on the Pacific Coast. Nathaniel Baldwin played an important role in the burgeoning fundamentalist movement in the early 1920s. His efforts, and especially his financial support, constituted a jump-start to the process of uniting individuals who opposed the church's efforts to stop plural marriage. Although the connection to Baldwin is not conclusive evidence that Anderson, a member of the Los Angeles High Council, was a polygamist, church genealogical records provide additional evidence, indicating that Anderson married Maud Sevi on October 19, 1925 in Mexico. The children of the latter marriage carried the surname Christiansen on the church's records. It appears that Nephi went by the name Nelson A. Christiansen in connection with Maud and her children. The inclusion of Anderson in Muir's history suggests that if Anderson practiced polygamy, it was successfully kept secret. Other members of the church in the Los Angeles area, who Catherine thought would correct Rulon, actually encouraged him. Among those whom she mentions are Francis Darter and a brother Fish from the Wilmington ward. A number of the Latter-day Saints in California were privately teaching or living the principle. How large that number was is difficult to determine. However, a hint may be provided in the April 10, 1937 issue of Liberty magazine, in which a Mojave County, Arizona attorney reports that polygamists in his county, this is Short Creek, Colorado City, Hilldale, were expecting an influx of 500 families from California. In an apparent attempt to influence Rulon away from polygamy by keeping him near to him, President Muir called Rulon as a member of the Los Angeles State High Council. The unanticipated effect of the assignment, however, was to impress on Rulon his own importance. Catherine reported, quote, "On the day they put him in, he came home, told me that proved he was all right, and that from then on he was running the home or there wouldn't be a home." End quote. When President Muir and the High Council were unable to persuade Rulon, Catherine turned to Apostle Anthony W. Ivins. Catherine explained that since Rulon had sent him letters of concern about his father, his attitude had changed from trying to help his father to that of believing him and condoning what he was doing. Revealing her readiness to leave Rulon, she wanted to know conclusively if he were in error or not. If he were in error or not. She wrote, "If my husband is right, I don't want my children to suffer because of my intolerance. He is to the point where he won't take the word of anyone. Before breaking up our home, I will await your answer. Is my husband entitled to membership in the church, believing as he does? If I am the one that should change, please tell me." Ivins wrote a lengthy response to Catherine that appeared to have a moderating influence on Rulon. In March of 1934, Catherine expressed gratitude for what he had written. Quote, "My heart has been made glad to see my husband take your letter and try to show others wherein they erred on the subject." End quote. Circulation of this Ivins letter by Allred among fundamentalists appears to have been the first point of contact between Rulon Allred and fundamentalist leader Joseph White Musser. Musser notes reading this letter and noting that it came from a brother in California in his diaries. Ivins' letter, however, did not have a lasting effect on Rulon. Catherine was compelled to write Heber J. Grant, president of the church. Expressing again her willingness to comply with Rulon if so directed, Catherine declared that without President Grant's permission, quote, I'll face the future without my sweetheart, who is more precious to me than life itself." End quote. After receiving Grant's response, she wrote again, "President Grant says to stay with the church. Today I am taking my sweet babies and leaving the husband that I love." Though she moved out of their home, Catherine did not give up hope that Rulon would change his mind. She prayed that he would come to them. After 3 weeks, however, she lamented, "The babies and I have been camping in this flat for nearly 3 weeks. I can't believe that Rulon won't come to us." Then the miracle happened, and Rulon was at the door. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Catherine wrote, "Rulon came to the flat last night and started to cry. He said since I had left, he had tried to look at both sides and had spent many hours out in the hills in prayer. He knelt on his knees and asked me to forgive him, that he knew that his father was wrong and that he would never again go against the church's teachings. We both felt the sweet spirit that was with us. My heart is so full of thanksgiving today, I can never thank my Heavenly Father enough. I feel unworthy of such happiness." Kitty's happiness hour was excruciatingly short-lived. After only 2 weeks, she conceded, "It is the end. Rulon told me today that Satan had made him shed tears and be weak and tell me that his father is wrong. He says he will enter polygamy as soon as he can. I feel as though I am losing my mind." Even though she had written "It is the end," Catherine's desperation to do nearly anything to keep her family together is captured in a confession of which she was deeply ashamed. She wrote, "Knowing that the purpose of polygamy is to father as many children as a man possibly can, I thought maybe if Rulon couldn't have any more children, he would be true to me. I asked my brother Claire, who is interning as a doctor, if there is any way on earth we could waylay Rulon and castrate him." Fantastic? Yes, but my life has been a fantastic nightmare for over 3 years. Of course, Claire would have no part of it. I knew it before I asked him, I guess. Oh, if I could only bury Rulon, so we could at least be together in eternity. In October of 1935, divorce papers were filed, and early in November of 1935, Rulon married his first 2 plural wives. And by 1944, when he was imprisoned in the Salt Lake raids, he had added an additional 5 wives. Brother Joseph Musser was very influential on him, and he had told Rulon that if he were to take 7 wives, that would constitute a quorum and place him in a position where he could lead as the head of the priesthood. And of course, when Musser named Rulon as leader of the priesthood council, the council members rejected him, resulting in a split in the early 1950s that led to the 2 large movements today. Let me conclude. In summary, Allred demonstrated religious zeal that permitted him to put religious belief and practice before the sensitivities of his wife and children. Rulon held beliefs that justified the temporary loss of his family with the expectation of reconciliation in this life or in the next. Embracing polygamy meant that he would be blessed with many families and a measure of joy that might overshadow his temporary loss of Catherine, Forrest, Kathleen, and Judith. Rulon was strongly influenced by his father, an eloquent advocate for the principle, and by his siblings, particularly his sisters, who not only believed in polygamy, but lived it and advocated its virtues. Additionally, Rulon's relationship with prominent fundamentalist leaders, particularly Joseph White Musser, reassured him of the correctness of his path. Allred's connection to Musser and to fundamentalism provided Rulon with an outlet for his deep devotion, innate talents and abilities, and for his personality of prominence. While church leaders counseled Allred against the practice of polygamy, some had as odious a past as his father, or they openly practiced the principle. President Grant had practiced polygamy himself. Apostle Ivans had solemnized numerous post-manifesto marriages, including the marriage of Rulon's parents in Mexico. Respected Latter-day Saints in the Los Angeles area, including Nephi Anderson, Francis Darder, and Brother Fish, were advocates of the principle while maintaining their membership in the church. Though President Muir sought to turn Allred away from fundamentalism, he effectively added fuel to Allred's fire by calling him to the High Council, a move that Rulon perceived as evidence of the correctness of his beliefs. This unique constellation of influences. His Prelude to Polygamy pointed Allred to the North Star of fundamentalism and profoundly shaped the course of the movement.